2, 1, 0.
Good morning to everybody. This is Stefano, Master in Geopolitics from Italy. Today it will be a very unusual roundtable because it's August. There is a lot of holidays time in Italy today. It's very hot weather. So let's start with some provocation, some information, but I wanted to give it to you. This week we did an open mic, and this open mic was for the first time with a lot of, let's say, new people. I had to moderate a little bit the channel because there was a little bit of strange comments or whatever. So let's start only 1 minute talking about this channel. This channel was born in April 2022 after the starting of the Russian-Ukrainian war. And the main goal of this channel is to give a lot of information from a very different point of views from all over the world. This channel is not pro something and not against something. So completely, I have my point of view. I'm not biased. I'm not pro or against. I have personally, let's say basic medium preparation about history of Soviet Union, about geopolitics. My studies are different because I'm an IT engineer. So I'm involved in politics from many years, from 2009 in Italy, local level, national level, as a civil party. I'm not in any party. I am a town councillor on my city on the Lake Garda, Italy. So the main idea was to create a geopolitical school. So it's still the same goal that we had 1 year ago. And arriving to the goal of organizing this school, we will make a lot of speech and a lot of roundtable like this one. Today we will have probably some speakers, but let's start with something. I have a lot of books, interesting books about what is happening now, studying what happened a long time ago. I was in Georgia about 1 week ago. Before I was in Azerbaijan. I'm very interested in the Caucasus and what is happening there. It's very interesting because all the former Soviet Union has a lot of connection still. We will watching it about later. So about books, I have plenty of books about Russia, Soviet Union, anything. So first one that I just reordered, I found used on Amazon. I will put all these books on the description. It's At the Highest Level, the Inside Story of the End of the Cold War. And now we have Asadullah Faranzai with us. So I was talking about some books, so we can talk about it. So this is the first book that I wanted to suggest to you, At the Highest Level, of Michael Batchelor and Strobe Talbot. There is a lot of interesting data about the 80s and a lot of interesting things that it's connecting of what is happening now, about the situation in Eastern Europe and whatever. When I was in Georgia, I found also this one. But it's very interesting book. I didn't read yet, but I think it will be interesting. It was written by one former military of the Georgian army before the instauration of the Soviet Union in Georgia. So very interesting one. This one, that it's another one. The world was going our way, the KGB and the battle for the Third World. Why it's very actual? It's very, very actual. Asadullah, I don't know if you can hear me, but let me put something like this. So It's
I
very
can hear you.
interesting.
Sorry
Okay, perfect. So we are waiting for other because we will have also a chef from Taiwan, but the guest is coming and going today. It's like this because it's summer, it's August, it's very hot everywhere. So you are in Norway now.
Yes, I'm in Norway, my friend.
Okay. I missed Norway. I need to come to Oslo as soon as possible because I want to see.
Please do.
And I want to come. We will go to Blinder together.
Yes.
So, why it's interesting this book? I will try to find all these books in PDF if I would be able. This book it's very interesting because it's analyzing all the relationship between Soviet Union, so mainly like the Russian Soviet state and the other powers of the time. So it's interesting about India. It's interesting about China. Why? Because and especially also Africa, because in this time it's interesting, but especially after the BRICS summit, we will talk about it. So other books that I wanted, it's also the other four that I wanted to share with you for today. Then we will start to talk about the economics. The other one that is like this, Sergei Ploy, The Last Empire, The Final Days of the Soviet Union. It's incredible actual book because it's analyzing completely what was happening in 1991 and in 1990 about the situation of the Donbass, Crimea, everything. Sergei Ploy, it's an Ukrainian writer. It's a professor of the University of Yale or Harvard. Let me check it, but it is in US now. The last three books are this one. It's not new, but it's interesting the date of this book because I think it's about 2014. So it was just published during the, let's say, occupation of Crimea, Return to Winter, Russia, China, and the New Cold War against America. Why it's interesting? Obviously, this is the point of the US. It's not the point of the BRICS or China or Russia. It's interesting because it's analyzing the actual situation of the military response of the US about the new growing of China and the others, let's say, former third world countries. And it's very criticizing the US administration about what is happening. Last two, one it's in Italian, but I will find the title in English. It's like Nazione in Fuga. It's like about nations, the growing nation. The author is Ruchir Shaurma, that is like an Indian guy, an Indian American guy. I don't know Asadullah if you know him, but it's very interesting guy, and it's
What's the
old.
name?
Ruchir Sharma.
Yeah, Ruchir Sharma. Yeah,
Is
I've
like
heard about him.
is an economical guy. I think it was like I don't know if it was like Goldman Sachs, Morgan Stanley. So this book it's analyzing a lot of countries, Russia, India, Turkey, whatever, with the growing GDP that was interesting in, and this book it's 2014 also, but the first copy was 2012, and it's interesting because this guy got mainly all the forecast about these countries in the right way. So I will took some example later and we will see. The last one, it's of the same author that we had as guest, that was Stephen Levine. It's this one, Putin Labyrinth, and this book it's also it's not new. It's 2008. So it's analyzing the form of let's say background government in Russia, and it's very actual about the situation that happened just a few days ago with the mysterious death of Evgeny Prigozhin. So, Sadullah, if you want to say anything, be free, because today we will be like chat and observation, and anything will be free. So if you have anything that you want to say, after I will show some PowerPoint about economics.
Hmm. Well, thank you very much, my friend. It's a long time that I really didn't participate in the debate. Some busy time here in Norway since I work with with Save the Children and also with the ministry. So busy days. But many things are happening. I mean, if you see this chief of Wagner assassination, and then the BRICS summit that happened, and I think I don't know how shall I put it. It's should we say it's a deadlock in kind of Ukraine and Russia war, or is it? I'm not very up to, but I think there are conflicting news about the progress by both sometimes Russians and sometimes the Ukrainians. But I think casualties are there. Yeah, but this big, like it really emerged a lot of questions in my head. This killing of the head of the Wagner. And one thing that I would like to conclude it, I mean, like, as one of our friends, I forgot his name, but I just watched his YouTube,
Constantine
stream. Yeah, he was,
inside Russia.
what he was saying, that he was a dead man walking, and I think he was right, because Putin, in this whole history, 23 years, nothing such happened with Putin, and this was like uh, this was. I mean, those politicians or the business people, or political opposition or any other critic, against Putin. So Putin either killed or exile or jailed them. So that's for sure. And I think he was like, personally, I don't know Russia very much, but one thing that I know is that I knew that this guy was. I was totally agree with our friend that later, or after now or later, he's going to be killed by the. I don't see any sort of doubt that I think it was shot, the helicopter, or the airplane, and he was killed, actually. Politically, what does it politically means? I mean, to Putin, I think politically it means that Putin is sort of very much control of the Russian establishment. People who cross Putin, meeting untimely end. That is something which is happening which happened to many of the political opposition, the critics, and including this Wagner guy. But the question to me was that, like, it was a kind of very, uh, uh, first it was like uh, the rebellion that he started, and then it was a deal, and then a plane crash. So it's really kind of. Mhm.
And the Sadullah, if I can say to you, the plane crash was exactly 2 months after the mutiny. So
Yes.
if you listen like the speech of Konstantin inside Russia, it probably will connect, but is now in Uzbekistan, so it's a little bit with a different time zone. The main thing is that I have like this book that I suggest the people to take it. I think that I could find it also for you. Putin Labyrinth of Steve Levine. It's starting with a lot of interested cases about. It's not very well known that like Putin was starting his. Growing level of let's say popularity in Russia after this Gurianova Street bombing, that is this one.
Hmm.
Okay. That happened in Moscow, Southeast Moscow, in September 9, 1999. It's very interesting fact that during like when was happening this bombing, it was like accused like Chechens terrorist. There was in the same buildings and in a lot of buildings all around Russia some exercitation with bombings of this building about FSB. So I'm not saying any type of connection, but there is a lot of sources that said that there was an interest to create some tension strategy in Russia to increase, let's say, the push of the population for a second war in Chechnya. It was the same in Italy during the 70s and the 80s about these terrorists, about far left, far right. Everything was covered by the secret services, blah, blah, blah. So, for sure, nothing happened in Russia that Putin don't knows because it's a type of state that it's very controlled from it's a verticist, and I can say it to people because also I try to start such a form of collaboration with some public entity at local level. It's impossible because you need to have the approval of the center. It's not like any other type of countries. It's very autocratic. I'm not saying that it's a dictatorship, but it's autocratic, and so it's very verticistic to Moscow. Another thing that I wanted to let me put Islam is saying I'd pronounce that Prigozhin wasn't much more than a public relation figure of the Wagner collective intelligence that perhaps overstepped with a coup. I pity the three civilians who were on the plane. The others, well, of course, all the life is precious in a state that doesn't value human life as no moral right, high ground to stand on, and at least know what they were dealing with, to the extent that you can know that things at all. Okay, first, there is still this mystery that there was two planes. One was crashed. The second one was going to Azerbaijan, to Baku.
Hmm.
So we still don't know what happened. We didn't see any type of dead body. The plane crashed. There is like some footage, but one wing. Someone said that it's not compatible with anti-aircraft or a missile. Maybe it's a bomb. Whatever. The mystery that I still have in my mind is why he stopped the mutiny if he was arrived 200 kilometers from Moscow without being stopped 2 months ago. So
Hmm.
it's still something that it's interesting because they have heavy weapons. It was a big convoy, so maybe something was given to him. Some I don't know what, but for sure, Putin is not a guy that forget and forgive. As
Hmm.
Konstantin said, it's something like this. You have to you have to know that if you do something like this and you show to the world that it was possible to easily arrive to Moscow, it's difficult to don't have a, let's say, some revenge that was served cold, like this thing. So I don't know. Let's see what will happen. It's interesting because in a lot of Wagner channels they were talking about second march. There is a lot of movement about the second level of the command lines. So let's see.
Who will replace this guy? I mean, and what he was doing in Moscow? Actually, that's the question. How come he was flying very openly to Moscow, then St. Petersburg? So that something was, I don't know, something was cooking behind the scene.
The main thing is was if it's the real the list of the people inside there was like the security internal security guy of Wagner group of PNC Wagner. There was Utkin that was like the military head of Wagner group, and also Prigozhin. It's very strange that all these people were together in the same plane.
Hmm.
So I don't know because Wagner internally, like in the front, is completely it's not on the front. The part of the Wagner group that wanted to remain on the front and fighting were absorbed by the official, let's say, regular Russian forces, and
Hmm.
the Wagner group was active, but only like abroad, not in Ukraine, but in Africa or whatever,
Hmm.
in all the other fronts. So I don't know what will happen in Wagner, in the Wagner organization. There is a huge interest. There is another private military group that is the Gazprom group, but it's the second biggest after Wagner. So, okay, let's say about Islam. Okay, there were 2,000 people in the convoy without supply lines. You cannot take Moscow with 2,000 troops. You have difficulty taking Moscow with 2 million troops, and then if you take it, good luck holding it. I agree with you, Isla, but the main thing, and I Charles, the main thing is that the main problem, in my opinion, is that if you are showing up the word that you are taking Rostov in few hours without any problems and with the support of the people, with this convoy, and the Wagner group had about 50,000 people, not 2,000. With this group, you are easily going in the highway without any stop for a lot of kilometers because from for sure they divided the group one in Rostov and one that was going up to Voronezh. You are showing to the world that internally Russia is not so solid. So this was for me the internal problem of Putin. But let's see only fastly some economical data, only like to actualize what I'm saying and talk about it because it's interesting about also what like Xi Jinping also Putin said in the BRICS summit. I updated the data of 4 days ago about the exchange because it changed a little bit. Uh, so, uh, ta, 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 ta. Okay, so let's see, and then we can talk about it. Euro ruble now it's about 102, 103. Didn't change, went down a little bit, but it's still very high. And if we took a look about the maximum level, this is only Yahoo Finance, but from the level of 2005, let's say, the value of the dollars on the ruble exchanged to euro, it's losing 185% of the value. Uh, this is about the dollar. So the difference it's about 220%. So it reached over 100 ruble for $1. Now it's 95. It's interesting also the exchange with the Indian rupee and about the renminbi, the yuan. Why? Because the two biggest countries where like the Russian is trading now, it's like India and China. And with India, the value of the ruble from the beginning, let's say from before the invasion of Crimea, it's about a loss of 76%. And finally, let's see the most important data for Russia, because now it's importing mainly, let's say, all the stuff that they need, electronics and whatever, also cars from China. They lost about 264% of the value of the ruble in exchange of renminbi. This, in my opinion, technically we can talk about it for months, but it's very, very bad, because let's say the weakest, if an economy is strong, the value is strong. We cannot talk about it about renminbi, because the renminbi case it's a little bit different, because the economy it's completely controlled by the state. But if we talk about the Indian rupee, euro, dollar, the exchange lost very, very much. Another thing that it's interesting, it's about the crude oil value, which is like the general crude. It's not the Ural. We will see the Ural later. So let's see about the monthly European Union import of Russian crude oil via Druzhba pipeline. It's the Druzhba pipeline. It's like the pipeline that cross Ukraine. So we can see that it's still working, but actually the only three countries that are importing from Russia is are Slovakia, Czech Republic, and Hungary. Why? Because they don't have a sea connection, so they're not able to import from the sea. And the Russian fossil fuel export, we already watched this data, but it's updated now. We can see that it's going down. It's the total value in millions of euro. It was 1.2 billions at the peak in April 2022. Now it's about 500 millions. So the revenue of the export of Russia, it's minus 60%. We can see that also the shipment, it's going very low. Shipment of oil. It's interesting, Asadullah, also for you, because the only other country that is insuring like the Russian vessels are Norway. So we can say like that it's like made by the European Union and G7. It's like the light blue, and the blue it's insured by Norwegian companies. Some of other slides, and then we will talk about it. The top 5 importance of Russian fossil fuel is still China and India, we can see. But the most of the part, it's about let's say crude oil. So with less material that could be exported with refined, and the revenue it's in refined oil. Russian fossil fuel export revenue, we can see that the peak was, as I said before, April 2022, and it's going down and down and down. And we can see that the LNG value, it's very few. They have seaborne crude oil that it's still a good quantity. The gas via pipeline, it's decreased not to zero, but at least zero. And so if it's going with this trend, it's already minus 60% of the total revenue in 1 year and few months. Okay. Who is buying the Russian fossil fuels in June 2023? The typology is still the same. Before was also, let's say, gas, and we can see that now pipeline gas, it's a small quantity. India, there is not connection, so no pipeline gas. China, there is still Power of Siberia 1. And what is going on with this data? These data are saying us that the total revenue of Russian Federation about fossil fuel export, it's going much down if we compare it for 1 year before. So the last thing that I wanted to show, and then we can discuss and take questions from the public, it's about the effective of the price cap. Everybody was saying no, it's not working. We can see that the Ural, except in April, that went a little bit over $60 for barrel. It's now, after the price cap, it's permanently down $60 for cap. We have to remember to the public that India and China, it's importing this material, but with a huge discount, minimum $15-20 for barrel. So less revenue for Russia, and it's increasing the problem of the deficit. We were talking with a Croatian friend that I hope that we will have in the next open mic. About the problem of deficit, that it's not a problem, blah, 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 whatever. The main thing is that actually the Russian economy, with the official data of the Russian Central Bank, accumulated in the first year of war, about, let me give you the right data. So, it's about 48 billions of dollars of deficit in 2022, and it's about 42 billions of dollars in the first semester of 2023. So let's put an analysis. If the average could be about $50 million in the first semester, about, let's say, also 40, we are accumulating in the first year and a half of war. I'm starting from, let's say, June 2022. At the end of this year, we will have about 150 billions of deficit in the Russian budget. How much was the money that was saved in the Russian national funds for finance the war? Was about $300 billion. But we have to remember that half of this money, it's gone because it was freezed, because it was in foreign banks. So the analysis, it's simple. How can the Russian Federation can manage the cost of the war that is huge, and the expenditure of the war was calculated by the Russian Central Bank in an extra deficit plus, if I remember, 45%, and the income was minus 29% last year of the budget. So this is the real deficit. You are taking less income from exports, and you are spending more money from the budget for the war. How much can list this without disrupting the Russian economy? I don't know, 1 year and a half, 2 years. We are talking about it without any type of foreign help. So, Isla, Charles, if there is any type of questions, we are waiting for other guests because probably someone will arrive in the next 15 minutes, 20 minutes. If you have any question, just ask. Asadullah, if you have any type of updates from Afghanistan, because I will be glad to give any information to the public about Afghanistan, because it was like a few days ago. It was 2 years of the collapse of the former Afghan government and the taking of Kabul of the Taliban's. If you have any news for us. Asadullah, can you hear me?
Sorry, I just got a call from some
Okay,
other.
no problem, no problem. I
No,
was
it's
only
okay.
asking because it was 2 years from the taking of Kabul anniversary. So if you have any type of updates about Afghanistan from for the public, so we can give a little information about it.
Yeah, I mean, my friend, you know that it's almost like 2 years, and 2 years later, Taliban, they are rulers of Afghanistan. I mean, there is no opposition, to be honestly speaking.
Uh-huh.
Uh, that ban political parties, believing that the political parties doesn't support national interest. Since the takeover, they dissolved the Independent Human Rights Commission, the Independent Election Commission, a number of the institutions, that really serves the democratic values. But in the meantime, like the DFA, we call it the de facto authorities, the Taliban regime have carried out what we are hearing is censorship and violence against the Afghan media, drastically limiting, critical reporting across the country. Media is under the Taliban complete control. They even cannot publish any sort of political discussion or shortcomings or, for that matter, criticism of the current regime, and also the human rights violation reports. So there are like many things happening, but the fact is that democracy has long been dead in Afghanistan. The political and armed opposition is so weak, and they also have failed in 2 years to mobilize and support uh, across the country. And the fact is that the world, the collective West, I must say, including the regional countries, is not backing these armed and political opposition. So simply put, Stefan, this is there is no opposition actually. No one is there really to challenge the current regime. The international community, the US, the Western world, they used all its leverages, for instance, like sanctions against them, blacklisting their leaders, no recognition. Even the issue of aid diversion is also under discussion in the US and some other capitals. And I hope that it will not happen, because this humanitarian aid is directly benefiting the people of Afghanistan, not the regime. And after all these leverages, all this pressure, unfortunately, that the Taliban regime is getting even more tougher on women rights and human rights and other democratic values. But the second anniversary was broadly celebrated, across Afghanistan by the Taliban. There were several speeches delivered by the Taliban leaders, particularly, the Minister of Defense, Minister of Interior, Minister of Foreign Affairs, the Deputy Prime Ministers, uh, and I haven't seen one single word. I have not observed one single word regarding the girls' education. A kind of positive and inclusive government or whatever. They were defending their regime. They were giving a message to the public and as well as to the region and international community that they will rule this country. They give the impression that they have defeated Americans in the West and they have seized the power. They are the victorious. And they blamed Americans, criticized Americans for bombing the civilians, invading Afghanistan and all that. In the meantime, I think in 2 years, what really happened, I would just say a few words that what is positive, what the people think they are looks like positive, like they have somehow handled the economy, and I think the security is relatively better, but the crime rate has gone up due to the economic condition and poverty. And most importantly, I think they have done a great job in controlling the opium production. The opium production is down in Afghanistan if you compare it to the republic and previous regime. So these are the facts. But this is also the fact, my friend, that one section of the society, which are women and girls, are paying the price for this regime. They are stuck at home with no education, no job, and without knowing their prospects for the future. Uh,
But the actual situation is that like the education of a woman is completely banned.
exactly. It's until the primary. I mean, they only allowed education until sixth grade, like primary education for girls. And
Okay.
their argument is that girls who are adults, according to Islam, they cannot go without mahram. We call it, this is a kind of like a male guardian, they cannot travel, they cannot go
Okay,
out,
okay.
and they're not allowed to pursue, modern education, and there is no need. That's their sort of argument. But the engagement is still there. I mean, the international community is highly engaged with the current regime, regarding girls' education and women rights, and I mean, access of women to work in education. But they haven't yet convinced. They haven't yet reached to any kind of conclusion or productive conclusion, to put it this way. But the US, UK, European countries, they are meeting time to time with the de facto authorities in Doha and also inside Afghanistan. So fingers crossed, and let's see if something happened, because recently there was a meeting between the Taliban, like it was 2 weeks ago, between the Taliban foreign minister uh, and the U.S. Special Representative for Afghanistan and Pakistan, Tom West, and they discussed women rights, they discussed girl education, they discussed the city counterterrorism issue, because Al Qaeda is still there. There is number of regional and international terrorist groups, inside Afghanistan. So, and after that meeting, I think I saw one interview that happened with Al Jazeera. The interview was taken by Al Jazeera with the foreign minister Amir Khan Muttaqi, and he spoke about the delegations meeting with the U.S. representatives in Qatar, and he referred it to as a positive engagement. And he, as usual, he claimed that the Taliban have fulfilled most of the commitments from the Doha Agreement. And he called on the United States and in other countries to also respect, particularly United States, because it was a bilateral agreement between U.S. and the Taliban, to respect the clauses of Doha Agreement. He flagged improved economy despite the absence of international aid. And he said that they have increased export and imports. And most importantly, that recently the business community of Russia, they were in Afghanistan, and there was a meeting between the Russian businessman and the commerce minister of Taliban. And since the takeover until now, I think we see a big increase in the bilateral trade between Russia and Afghanistan. So that's how it is so far, my friend. If there's any question, I'm available.
Okay, now I wanted to ask, like, what is like okay? There is one question from the public from Charles. Question: Why has the armed opposition failed to garner support from the population?
Yeah, there are, I think, few reasons, but one big reason is that they have really lost the popularity, the support among the people at grassroots level, because they have left, their own constituents to the mercy of Taliban, and they have, quit the country. They've flown to Europe, Turkey, UAE, and most importantly, they were heavily involved in corruption.
Okay.
Uh, and because the main reason is popularity, and that's the one reason. And the Taliban, they are also, anyone who is sort of having connection with the opposition. So the Taliban just detain them, and they punish them, and yeah, due to this fear also. But people, to be honest, I mean, Stefano, they are actually, the Afghans are tired of war. They don't really, I mean, if it is Tajik or Pushtun or any other ethnic group, they are really tired. It's almost like 4.5 decades that we are in war. So they don't want, because they believe that these are political oppositions. They have their families abroad. They are enjoying luxury and lavish life. They have looted this country. Even they looted this donor community money. Italian, the European, the Americans. There was huge and enormous corruption in 20 years. So these people say, why should I fight for people who live abroad with their families, enjoying a good lifestyle? Why should I send, my son or brother, to fight for them and to be killed?
And what about like as we said, there is like another question from the public. If sanctions remove Taliban in power or not, what are the perspective for developing the Afghan resource and economy? I heard that there is a lot of natural resources, but there is enough for the government to leverage an increase of living standard. Same question: what kind of prospect does peaceful Afghanistan have if it's allowed to develop?
I mean, look, Afghanistan is like the only thing that we are really missing is a sort of elected leadership. I think in last 4 decades, I would say. Rather, it was came. I mean, normally, like the former PDP, the People Democratic Republic, the former communist, they were installed by the USSR, the Soviets, for many years. And then we had this Taliban who were installed by with the help of the Pakistanis. And then, like, we had this Karzai, this republic for 20 years with the mercy of NATO. And then and we have seen the elections, those were rigged and stolen elections happen in Afghanistan. And now we have again Taliban. So there is really now a democratic and elected leadership and a clean leadership. I think if we will be having a clean leadership, honest leadership, elected leadership, that really have the trust of the people, we have a lot of resources. Afghanistan has huge potential. Like, we have gas reserves, natural resources worth of coal, worth of trillions. There have been, survey done by the Americans. I think I forgot, it was NASA or who, but we have reserves. We have oil, we have gas, we have lithium, we have gold, we have precious stones, coal, number of stuffs untouched. And I mean, what we need is a what we need to have a honest and strong leadership elected to have a balanced relationship with the region and with the West and the East and everyone, and to care about the interest of the people and interest of the country, not to think about their own personal pockets, because in last 20, 30 years everyone was pocketing their own pockets, the leaders, they were highly corrupt. So to summarize it, I mean, we have the potential. We have the. I mean, Afghanistan is completely a rich country in terms of human capital, in terms of resources, natural resources, and everything, agriculture, livestock. The only thing that we are missing is a clean and a honest and an elected leadership. If we have that, I think there is a big room for improvement.
Have you got any news from Ghana, like the last president before the Taliban's? Is he like publishing something? Because the last thing that I saw, it was like in the Emirates, but not a lot of news.
Yeah, I mean, like he's still in Abu Dhabi. He lives in the former president. He lives in Abu Dhabi. I met his national security advisor just 5 months ago, I think. Yeah, he's a good friend of mine, and he said that he's busy in writing a book or something, and time to time meeting people a little bit, and just yeah. So
But not interested anymore, like in the internal politics of Afghanistan. No.
no, he really has the intention to sort of to work for Afghanistan, to do something for Afghanistan, but he's not interested to again to join the politics or run for a kind of elections or kind of just to serve the people of Afghanistan, can give a good advice to even Taliban or to other government.
Gotcha. Let me show like because if we can stay in 1 hour and a half, if no other speech, it's coming. It's better also for YouTube. But let me show some contents because I want to discuss with you and also with the others. The first is about this. Image that is about the BRICS, the summit that was held in South Africa. Technically, for the Russian Federation, there is Lavrov. Technically, there is some reasons because Putin was not in South Africa. Also, because there is like the International Court. Research about him, and officially South Africa is like a member of the international court, and so it was like a dangerous diplomatic situation about it. I wanted to show you a video. I don't know, Sadullah, if you saw it, about the guards of Xi Jinping, but happened a little bit of problems in South Africa, but let's say it was only a fun things. About BRICS, so let's see what BRICS. It's technically an informal association like G7 that was originally BRIC: Brazil, Russia, India, China, and after I think 2008 or 10, also South Africa entering this association. And now there is like some countries that wanted to enter in 2023, that is Argentina, Saudi Arabia, Iran, United Arab Emirates, and Ethiopia. And there is some interest of other countries: Belarus, Kazakhstan, Malaysia, whatever, some other else, Venezuela, and
Yeah, I mean, it's like sorry, it's so growing interest. It's like around 40 countries express their interest to join BRICS.
yeah. But this is like the request. But you have countries that requested multiple association. For
Mhm.
example, the position of India and Brazil was against the entrance of a new member in the BRICS. So
Yes. And why
uh,
that?
who knows? But I think that if I will not find the PDF, I will send you like the original copy of this one. The world was going our way. The Indian position, it's very interesting for me because uh, technically, if you look at the Indians, let's say TV program or whatever, it seems pro-Russian sometimes, but in diplomacy, the Indian government it's with a position that it's sometimes with one feet into shoes. So they are not so far away from US, and especially, for example, they are very, very next to the position of Japan. So it's interesting that two countries that are in the same association, technically, they are in contraposition for the control of the borders. China and India are not technically super friends.
Yeah.
And so there is an interesting book that is called The Empire of Chindia, that is like the sum in Italian of China and India. And it was explaining the biggest difference between these two countries. Very big population, but the system are completely different. Brazil is another country that I know a lot because I went multiple times, more than 10 times. It's completely complicated countries because you can go from a very, very poor federal states, let's say Maranhão in the north, and go to São Paulo that is extremely rich, like New York. So it's complicated to manage. Also in India, I don't know if you ever been, but when I went in Delhi, I went to it. It was impressive for me. Impressive for me because also India have a lot of, let's say, contrast. Very rich people, very poor people live together in the same neighborhood. In China, I didn't see this. In China, everything is super planned, completely central control. Everything is,
Mhm.
I don't know, super planned. I went to a city for a conference for 4 years, but it's called Qingdao. Extremely clean, extremely organized, completely different from India. India, very infrastructure, but there is mess everywhere,
That's true.
anarchy, but it's working. In the chaos, it's working. So for me was but the two countries are completely different. And so why these, let's say that G7 countries are more homogeneous because the type of government and the type of population it's more similar. So the two associations are very, very, very different. And if we look to the four regional countries, there are four countries that are sole exporters. Maybe China will become, if they will not have a crisis, internal crisis, an importer of luxury, like they are now. But where China, it's like exporter of um, like consumer goods, but importer of commodities. Russia, sole exporter of commodities, but they are importing a lot of things from China. There is nothing that with a high value that is like produced in Russia, for example. Nothing with high value produced in India, for example. Brazil, it's complicated because it has many different states with many different parts. Like the southern part of Brazil very rich, the northern part of Brazil very poor. So it will interesting for me to see what will happen. But if there is any question from the public about BRICS, we will discuss a little bit. I wanted to show something that is connected also to Afghanistan. So, this thing, there is a lot of news in the last 10 days about the situation in Turkmenistan that it's pushing a lot for this Trans-Caspian pipeline. That it's an interesting thing for me because I was in Baku 2 weeks ago. Uh, why there is this problem? Because technically the Caspian Sea for the Russian it's a lake and not a sea, and in international law, calling the Caspian Sea a lake, you need the authorization of all the states around to make a pipeline. If it's a sea, you need only the two states that are making the pipelines. So if Azerbaijan and Turkmenistan want to do the Trans-Caspian pipeline, they needed the approval of Iran and Russian Federation. Why it's interesting? Because I wanted to ask you if you have any news about this thing that is like the Turkmenistan, Afghanistan, Pakistan, Indian pipeline. Because there is a lot of information about it. There is like, I don't know, one summit that was made in 2010 talking about it. It's already 13 years from now, but actually there is nothing. So, do you know if there is anything real about this pipeline, or it was only on paper?
I mean, this thing started back then when there was a republic, President Ghani's government, and I think all these countries, the toppy, Turkmenistan, Afghanistan, Pakistan, and India, they were so committed towards the implementation of this project, and it's a huge infrastructure project actually. Going through Afghanistan and then Pakistan and to India from Turkmenistan. But then we saw the collapse of regime. We witnessed a new regime right now, and I think the Taliban they're also eager, and they have had discussions with the Pakistanis, with the Turkmens, and also I think with the Indians in this regard. But as a fact of matter, I think the Taliban they lack resources, particularly they lack money. So
Uh-huh.
the big problem is the implementation of this TOPI inside Afghanistan. So there has to be a donor for this. Either it used to be, I think I don't remember quite, but it used to be Asian Development Bank or something, but I don't know. But this is the only big challenge which this topic project is facing for the time being, and I think it will benefit, it will generate a lot of jobs. I mean, like inside even Afghanistan, and it's benefiting Afghanistan also extensively, and then Pakistan, because Pakistan and India, and especially India, they are so hungry for energy and this gas. They need it.
No,
Uh,
and it's interesting because this gas field that was called Galkinish gas field or Yolotan gas field, South Yolotan Osman field is the second biggest gas field in the world. And actually, there is like a lot of interest also from China to have like a connection through Tajikistan, and I think Afghanistan could be, because all the countries where the pipeline is going through, they receive royalties.
mhm.
So it could be a lot of work creating it, but also a lot of revenue when you have it. And
Yep.
another part that I wanted to show, it's returning back to this slide. It's that you have like the TAPI, that is what we were talking about, and the other one that was like the Trans-Asia gas pipeline, that it's going to China through Tajikistan and Kyrgyzstan, Uzbekistan, Tajikistan, and Kyrgyzstan.
Hmm.
And what about Europe? Only like to put because I'm from Italy, so let's talk about it. It's interesting because you are in Norway. I think that Norway, if we will talk about the situation of the war, the last 2 years got a lot of revenue from the oil and gas selling to the European Union. But the states, I think that there is a lot of reorganization about the gas and oil sources. This is what I was talking about before from Baku. There is like this pipeline that was pushed at the end of the 80s with the father of the actual president, that it's Aliyev, and it's operative going to Italy. Some other interesting things that we are talking about from the last year. It's like the East Med pipelines. Actually, it seems a little bit expensive. It's this one because there is, let's say, a huge gas field in the south of Cyprus. It's an interesting thing because it's an international sea border between Lebanon, Israel, Egypt, and Cyprus. But there is so much gas that historically enemy, let's say, countries like Israel and Egypt made an agreement because everybody can eat about it. So they were talking about making the pipeline. Now they are talking about transferring inside the Mediterranean Sea via LNG. Why? We can see that the indirect effect of the war was like creating a lot of LNG regasificator, and the regasificator in Italy now I think it's seven. One it's like on a boat in Piombino in Tuscany, and this capacity can let's say create a different type of sources. For sure, it's more expensive than pipeline, but in a condition of problem and war like we are now, uh, I think it will make like a safe winter for the second year. So let me check. Charles, I saw some news somewhere of the Pope requesting observer status from the for the Vatican in the BRICS. It's fake news. Already check. So there is no real news about it. Returning back to the BRICS, if there is any question about the BRICS, we will chat about it, and then we will close the stream of today because it's very hot. So few people, few speakers. Now in Italy it's about 42 degrees in my town, so very hot. About BRICS, if we can make like a final synthesis of what happened, it seems to me that the Russian position in this summit was very, let's say, not irrelevant, but not so relevant. That the real position that was strong was the Chinese one with Xi Jinping, but the problem that I see it's about the global economy. Technically, for Sadullah, for the other, it's we are talking about a deflection in Germany and a stagnation in China. So what I'm afraid of it's that all these huge let's say propaganda about de-dollarization, the R5 currency to deal between the BRICS or whatever. It's something that it's like a castle of paper, a castle of cards. Why? Russia, it's like with a GDP that it's technically going down. The data that we have, it's for sure not so true. With a war that it's going to be long if it's going in this way. The Brazil situation, it's like a time clock bomb because the last election were at least contended. So it was not a Lula super victory like he was expecting, but it was, let's say, 50-50 with a growing voters for Bolsonaro. So let's see what we'll see. Indian situation is very much complicated to analyze because it's a country that it's a sum of other countries. So the Indian state, it's not a state, but it's a federation. It's completely decentralized. It's very complicated, but it's growing in population, but not so much in GDP. And finally, China. China, in my opinion, will have a lot of problems because I will send you some. I will put on the channel some video translated about independence analysis about the internal economy of People Republic of China, the system of growing the economy of the last 10 years, 15 years was based by huge, incredibly huge public investment in, in real estate, in construction, whatever. But now the situation is that the real estate market have not demand of the offer that they created. So now there is a huge bankruptcy situation about 300 billion of Evergrande Group, and there will be a lot of hot pot that are going without the cap. So I think that there will be a lot of surprises about the Chinese economy. I'm not saying that the G7 economies are going well. I think that there will be not a good economical situation in the next years, but at least the economies are mature. So I think that we could have a lot of surprises for the next year about economical situation of these countries. Um, Charles, Isla, Asadullah, if you want to say something or about BRICS, just to close, so we can stay in 1 hour 15 minutes. Your opinion about what is happening and let's say the former third world, the global south that is growing.
Yeah, thank you, Stefano. I would just have one question, rather than comment. You know that we see that there is a growing interest, among countries to join BRICS. Like as I said, what I heard is the number is like 40. So six more countries they were invited to join BRICS. And I think officially as the in the summit, the South African president said that they will. I mean, the exact date is January 2024. They will be officially the member of, effective January 2024, the member of BRICS. That would means like the Saudi Arabia, Ethiopia, for example, UAE, and number of other countries that you mentioned before. Which means that the new BRICS in 2024 will represent like around 36% of the world GDP. And then what they are going to do is, what I heard is that they are going to introduce new currency for transactions, particularly fuel and gas and a number of other stuff. How much it is like de-dollarization. They are the man motive behind this, but how much it will impact the dollar, and how much it will challenge this current system, the IMF thing and the World Bank, and like which is led by the US. It is going to happen.
Let me make a short answer, but the question is interesting. I think we will make a BRICS roundtable as soon as possible with a lot of people from all over the world. I don't have people from China, but I will have from Russia, from India for sure, Brazil. I have a lot of friends, so we can get them.
Better
The
to
main
invite some economists.
yeah, economist. The main position that from Russia, I had like two teachers from GIMO that they agreed to be a part of the roundtable. So from Brazil, I have people from university also. The main problem of the dollarization is that we need to check about the currency that is proposed. That I was talking about it. It's called R5. This currency. First, the main problem about this currency to make a currency that it's good for the world, let's say, trade, it must be a currency that is completely not controlled by the state. Like the weakness of these currencies that, for example, the biggest country of BRICS is China in economy, actually the second biggest economy in the world, and the control of the yuan by the PRC government, it's complete. You cannot move money outside of China if the government don't want. If they are able to take out the money is going to Hong Kong. So it's pretty impossible to make a world, let's say, trade with renminbi. So it's a big competition because you said that the World Trade Organization or let's say World Bank, it's managed by the US. If we can check the shares of China in all this organization, it's big, it's not small. Second thing, I think if we can check about the quantity of trade, I can show you immediately of China. Why I'm talking about China? Because I think it's like the most relevant in the calculation of what we are talking about. Let's see about only this last thing, and we will close. About the China trade balance, we can see that it's mostly oriented to the G7 countries. Plus, they have a huge balance with Hong Kong, 295 billion. Why? Because it's used to make business to the foreign world. So it's like, let's say, the real stock exchange of China. It's Hong Kong. It's not Shanghai. And about the imports, we can also see that the imports it's mainly balanced with G7 countries. So if I can answer fastly to your question, if you have like 50% of your total GDP that it's managed, let's say, with European Union and US, and your economy, it's mainly a transformation economy for goods that are sold to, let's say, the third world countries. If there is any type of closing of these economies with China, what will happen to the Chinese internal economy? For who they will produce? For Russia? If we can see like the balance of the import or the export, you can see let's convert US, only US, not G7. US for China value it's 324 billion, Russia it's 11 billion. So it's like 30 times more big the trade with US than only with Russia. So the Chinese are, let's say, in my opinion, playing in a short term because there will be a stagnation in the last phase of the Xi Jinping government. and in short term, I don't see any future of a second currency that it's another name that dollar. But let's see what is like the real proposal about this R5, and we will talk about it. Last question. Okay, and then we close. So I just hope there isn't another pandemic, and frankly, a lot of this stuff, even the war, seems a lot of bit of distraction from excess global of all cause mortality rates. I don't know. Let's see. It depends on what you want to do with your country. By the same logic, Stefano, it didn't make sense to the European Union to stop importing Russian energy because it's such a large portion and so heavily relied upon, but they did it anyway because of their own reasons. But there was an alternative. This is the main difference. If your customer are over 60% European Union and US, you have to find customers that are at the same level that the previous market. It means that if you cut off, let's say 50% of the market of US and Europe from China, China it's closed tomorrow. There is minus 40% of the GDP. There is not another country that can buy this stuff. So let's see. Thank to the public. If you have any type of question, just put it in the comments. After the 3rd of September, we will have a big stream with Konstantin from inside Russia and Natasha from Russia. We will talk about the actual situation internally in Russia. There will be a lot of surprises with focus that will be made about energy, and with two experts, one from Canada and one from Lebanon. And I'm preparing a lot of surprises for you, and I hope that you will enjoy it. And finally, I think at the beginning of September, I will let you know when and where will be the geopolitical school. The main goal of geopolitical school, it will be a free school, so without application. We will cover the cost of the teachers and the school. The only cost for the students will be the accommodation, and I will find the cheapest way to give to the people the chance to come to the school, and nothing else. So thank you so much for your time, Asadullah. Thank you for your presence and for your time. Hope to see you soon in Oslo,
My pleasure.
and see you soon.
See you soon.
Hi
Thank
to
you so much.
everybody. Ciao,
Bye,
ciao.
everybody. Bye.